Honest J. Nowak. Oh yeah. A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Honest J. Nowak. So right now, I've got a few other things I'm probably going to talk about before I end up going. Changing clothing, of course. That's just another big thing of mine that I probably need to start doing somewhat more often here. But I'm probably just going to start talking about some of the other common things out there that we usually have. And when I'm talking about common, for one, I'm mainly talking about another really popular thing in American culture that can inhibit all forms of linguistics and phonics and the types of which that can relate to how we used to learn about it in school. I'm mainly talking about comic books. And now comic books, of course, they can actually relate to some schoolwork, because they do in fact happen to put things like hyperbole, personification, onomatopoeia, simile, metaphor, any of that sort that we have learned as children. It's just a wonder why we were able to learn about them so much. Onomatopoeia basically just resembles words that can represent different sound effects taking place, which are not audible, of course. So, I mean, that's why they have to resort to using words as a way to fill in for sound effects. They probably wouldn't have to do words just to have sound effects being put in, because we can already see what the picture itself is describing to us. But, of course, it still is somewhat cool to have some of these made-up words really try to make up for what sound effects themselves and the audio format probably couldn't really take into place. As for the other categories themselves, similes, metaphors, personification, hyperbole, many of them happen to hold pretty well in terms of comic books. Now, I do figure that comic books themselves, though, they might not be too good of a tool based on linguistics that we learn about today, based on the schools that tend to take it into place. Because most of the time that we got on our hands based on how we learn about the linguistics skills that we get to know about in school, we don't technically use comic books anymore, based on how we're able to learn about these categories of different words and the like. But to be fair, comic books have had some value based on teaching us some formats of these categories based on linguistic skills that we could probably learn and take into effect. So that's probably just one part of our childhood that we can probably remember the best. But anything else that we've gotten in terms of school, comic books are probably just not something out there that teachers could in fact look up to. But in any case, though, they're definitely great to getting to know about some of your favorite superheroes, like the Avengers, the Illuminati, the Justice League, and many other teams out there that we've gotten to know about. Comic books have really become such a big thing over the last 50 years or so. It's been a really big thing out there, and I know for a fact that it will just continue to get even better and better and better. So, beyond the level of just 50 years, though, we've known comics very well for more than 80 years, especially with the first ever few adaptations of the Superman comics and the Batman comics. Now, both of those heroes have gotten so much fame and attention over the last 80 years, mainly because of the comics and because of the eventual television show movie incarnations they would be featured in, especially during the 40s all the way up to the 90s. And even up until today, we've still gotten a lot of good stuff coming around for things like the Justice League and the Avengers. But again, not all things are based on the comics, though. And when I'm talking about things that are not entirely based on the comics, I'm somewhat just talking about some things in life that have revolved around some aspects that we've gotten to know about some heroes in life. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, of course, not too many comics are involved within all of the movies we've seen, from Iron Man to Spider-Man Far From Home. And the way I see all of this, though, I really feel like, though, that some comic book adaptations probably would have been made in place, but now I still feel like, though, that the movies themselves are entirely worth having. Probably more than just a simple book that you can definitely read all the time, but that you can see in a theater, which would be much fun compared to a comic book even. But once again, comic books have really had some value based on teaching us how certain linguistic skills like onomatopoeia, metaphors, and all that type have been able to help us learn about those things. Because eventually in school we would be able to learn about even more of those subjects. So I feel like that all of this, though, is quite a big ride here. If you're willing to have yourself a large comic book collection, well, go ahead for that. I do have myself some comics as well. Of some things, though. Not of everything. So, that's probably all I got to talk about for right now, but there's certainly going to be a lot more things out there that I will surely talk about on, or touch up on, to say the least. If you want to see more go down on my channel, make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.